It is the year 2472, and the Earth has suffered a great calamity. Hundreds of years of popular culture have vanished. Without the sacred films and texts for guidance, civilization is devoid of anything cool. Then, 3 incubation chambers are unearthed, and from within, men from the time of the great blockbusters emerge. Now, through highly interesting conversations, they share invaluable insight about what once was. The movies, the shows, the comics, toys, and books. This is
The Hyperspace.
Podcasting in the 25th century.
Welcome in, podcast pioneers, to the hyperspace. Podcasting in the 25th century, the interweb's first and still only podcast. My name is Jared.
My name is Matt.
And my name is TBD.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, TBD. What'd you do with Mike?
I am Mike, silly. I was just joking. It was a fully.
Okay, hang on a second.
I
Cue those
can't-
crickets. Let's cue those
I
crickets.
can't play the game if I don't know the rules to
We
the
fully
fully.
transitioned to a comedic podcast.
I tell you what, it did just there. Man, holy cow, guys. Season 3 rolls on.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that Mike, or TBD, finally saw Bill and Ted Face the Music. So we
What?
thought
What?
maybe this would be a good opportunity for the podcast to review that movie.
I think that's a great idea.
I mean,
Matt.
by the time we do this, you probably would have read 1,000 reviews. But hey, listen, you're talking to 3 guys in their mid-40s who just got to see another Bill and Ted movie. So we're going to give you our own
Sure.
perspective on that.
You know, and we're here in the future, and time works differently, as it does for Bill and Ted. So,
That's a good point.
we're bringing it all back. But before we get there, gang, what else is happening in the world of the hyperspace?
Oof. Well,
I'll tell you one thing that Bill and Ted's Face the Music doesn't have that we have:
what is
a
that?
shop.
That's true.
They,
And if you haven't visited,
they may have a shop. I don't know.
Listen, I'm sure they have their own merchandising arm. It'd be foolish if they didn't. But if you haven't visited the hyperspace.net shop, I highly recommend that you do. Listen, we can't keep our shirts in stock. They're selling out every week. So I'm calling our suppliers. I'm like, we need more shirts. There's just too much demand. And we sold 3 coffee cups. So we need more, we're looking really for the coffee drinkers to pick up the
Yeah,
slack
you
here, but-
coffee drinkers gotta step it up a little bit, or tea, or tea
or
drinkers,
tea, of course,
or
100%.
whatever. You can put anything in a mug. It doesn't have to be tea or coffee.
Make it a pencil holder. I don't care. But either way,
yeah.
we've got some great merchandise for the podcast. For those who are fans of the podcast and want to support, share, and tell people about us. It's a great way to show your support, and we appreciate it. But I think before, gentlemen, we get to our review, maybe we should get a little bit of random.
Let's do it.
Random Access Memory.
All right, guys. So as we talk about Bill and Ted today, I think it's safe to say that Bill and Ted has a few characters, especially in the last few movies, that stole the show. In Face the Music, I'm talking about Dennis Caleb McCoy. And, of course, in Bogus Journey, I'm talking about Death, probably one of the most famous movie stealers in all of cinema.
To this day, one of my favorites.
So, what I'd like to ask you guys, in your opinion, what are some of your favorite scene stealers? In movies or TV, characters that were minor but became major with you.
I got it. All right, I'll kick this one off, and actually, it's pretty, it's pretty poignant to Bill and Ted. Sam Rockwell in Galaxy Quest
Instant classic.
has to be one of the best scene stealers of all time. Which, by the way, was directed by the same person
As Face the Music.
as Face the Music.
Correct. I had never heard of Sam Rockwell before I saw Galaxy Quest. And after I saw it, I wanted to know about everything he did. His character of Guy in that movie was incredible.
Here's the best.
There's a red thingy moving toward the green thingy.
What?
Red thingy moving toward the green thingy. I think we're the green thingy.
Well, what's funny too is he turned the role down several times. The casting director basically beat him into submission to finally get him to do that movie.
I wonder if that casting director came from the future, because Sam Rockwell at that time was not a well-known commodity, but if they really, really wanted him, they must have known something.
Man, it's so good.
That's what a good casting director does, Jared.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, sure, I know Sam Rockwell had a career before Galaxy Quest. It's just that we had never heard of it.
And we have the Green Mile to thank for him taking that role, because that was the same time he had done the Green Mile, and he knew they'd be coming out around the same time, and he thought that it would be a good contrast.
Yeah, he was great in the Green Mile as well. Good grief.
He's great in everything he does.
Put all that chocolate in his mouth and said, I'm going to get turds on you, or whatever he said.
Y'all like that? I'm currently cooking up some turds to go with it. Nice soft ones. Have them out to y'all tomorrow.
But I mean, that's just one example of Sam Rockwell in countless examples. I mean, you pick it. You know, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Stole the show in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I thought he really was a standout there.
Are you serious?
I'm joking about him being a standout, but he was in that movie.
Oh, was he in the first one?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man. I wouldn't even know. I have to go back and never revisit that movie.
He was great in Iron Man 2.
Yeah, Iron Man 2, fantastic. Gentlemen Broncos.
Oh, yeah, Gentlemen Broncos.
What the crap? Oh, my jams! You took my nads.
We only took one.
You took my nads, Dennis.
I mean, you take your pick. Sam Rockwell is, whatever list you want to put him on, A, B, or C, he's always an A-lister for me.
Man, yeah, that's a good, but, Guy from Galaxy Quest is a great choice. How about you, Mike?
Well, I'm going to go back to the year 2002. There's a little movie that came out. It wasn't very well received, and it actually may have killed the franchise, or at least put it into hibernation. And that movie was Star Trek Nemesis.
Okay.
And in that movie, there was a young actor who was just getting started, and his name was Tom Hardy.
He was amazing in that movie.
And I remember when I watched that movie, I thought, this guy is really, really good.
Man, I couldn't agree more. That is perfect. You're absolutely right.
Not quite the face you remember. Not quite. A lifetime of violence will do that. He broke my nose, my jaw. But so much is the same. The eyes. Surely you recognize the eyes.
Yes.
Our eyes reflect our lives, don't they? And yours are so confident.
But the funny thing about it is after he did that movie, he kind of fell off for a while.
Yeah.
He kind of disappeared. And I remember I would think I would look at Nemesis in my DVD collection, and I'd always be, man, I would have bet anything that guy who played Patrick Stewart's clone would surely go on to do more work. And then he came back.
Bronson, you ever watch Bronson?
Bronson, I guess Rock and Roller was one that he was in.
My wife's seen all those because she wants to marry Tom Hardy.
You really must learn patience.
But he really he came in a big way.
Touch me again. I'll kill you.
He finally came back. I guess let's see. Bronson was 2008, and I mean he did some stuff in between, but it wasn't really because I guess the big thing was that he had a drug addiction. I think.
Yeah, he had a weave out there. I mean, he had some problems, and
he had I guess it was heroin or something like that.
He righted the ship, and I think he's got a few kids
which
in there,
which is a killer. But he came back, and he's gone on to do some big movies. He's a big movie star.
Nemesis was not by any means the best Star Trek movie.
No, but he was really great in it. I mean, he was definitely the standout.
He was like Adam Driver in Star Wars. He was fantastic. There was nothing wrong with his part in that movie. He was.
What's funny is when you watch that movie, he's so scrawny looking.
Yeah, he's tiny.
He was very good in that movie.
Gives you power over me. And of course, Bane, his Bane has taken on a life of its own. It's totally memeable. Everybody cracks on it. It's
great.
It's actually fun to sort of make fun of it. But his Bane was it was pretty menacing at the time. I mean, unfortunately, I think his impact is softened a little by the subsequent jokes. Yes. If anybody hasn't watched any of the oral knots on YouTube, their Bane social distancing, wear a mask videos, and the Bane freestyle rap, complete genius.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Who is the one man to have defeated me in freestyle? Only me. Yes, only you. Would anyone else care to challenge me? That's what I thought. DJ, drop a beat.
But no, I agree, Mike. That's a really good pick. Tom Hardy in Nemesis was a standout, to be sure. That was he stole the show. Definitely stole the show.
That's a good choice. I think, like you said, after you saw Nemesis, you're like, man, has that guy been in anything else? Because he was good. I mean, he didn't really look like kind of a young Patrick Stewart, but, you could kind of buy it.
He sold it.
Yeah.
He sold it,
yeah.
Okay, my turn. This guy is, he's usually the main attraction. Well, sometimes he is, but in this particular film, he was not the main character. I'm talking about Jeff Goldblum in Ragnarok.
Oh. So great.
He was a complete freak show in that movie.
Jeff Goldblum at his best. He's just being Jeff Goldblum.
That was his most Jeff Goldblum role ever.
Man, you just have to wonder how much they just unleashed him. And he said, just be yourself and have fun.
They just said, go be, do what you do. And he was hilarious in that movie.
Let's stop there. You know what? I woke up this morning thinking about a public execution. I did. I really did. But for now, I'll settle for this sweet little, who's going to get him first? So, you're on the clock. This means go. Did you not get that? That's the universal sign. Was I not clear?
That's so good. I've recommended that movie to so many people. Yeah, I played the catch-up game. I've talked about this on the podcast before. I really played the catch-up game with Marvel movies in time for Endgame. And boy, when I finally got to Ragnarok, I was just like, this is one of my favorite movies probably in the past 15 years.
Yeah. Ragnarok was a standout.
Man, I'm telling my parents on this movie. I'm like, and they're in their 70s. I'm like, you have to see Ragnarok. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, watch it. And my parents watched it. It's a fantastic movie. But Jeff Goldblum in that movie is just so perfectly weirdly cast.
Yeah, he's got so many great strange lines, and
I love it when when they're talking about I can't remember her name, the Valkyrie, and you've got that tough Amazon guard next to him who just keeps saying
yeah, she hates everybody.
Revolution? How did this happen?
Don't know. But the arena's mainframe for the obedience discs have been deactivated and the slaves have armed themselves.
Oh, I don't like that word.
Which mainframe?
No. Why would I not like mainframe? No, the yes word. Yes word.
Sorry, the prisoners with jobs have armed themselves.
Okay, that's better. That's better.
Man.
I mean, that movie is replete with great moments. I mean, it's such a fun watch, start to finish, and the fact that they let him be who he was in that movie, it was just like the cherry on top.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a great choice. I agree.
All right, gang. So good choices all around.
Yeah, it was
and you know, now it's time to face the music.
25 years ago, you played a concert in front of the entire world. 1 month ago, you played in Barstow, California for 40 people, most of whom were there for $2 taco night. Bill and Ted, what have you got to say for yourselves?
Be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes.
There is a short list of movies that you hear about constantly that you think will probably never get made. And for me, Bill and Ted 3 was one of those movies. It would pop up, you know, every 3 or 4 years. You'd hear news about how Keanu Reeves was talking to Alex Winter and they were going to get back together and make another one. But then, you know, another year or two would pass and you wouldn't hear anything else about it. But it was with some great surprise in early 2019 when they announced on Facebook in a video, Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves said they would be starting production on Bill and Ted Part 3, making it official.
I think it was a real surprise because, you know, I always had kind of the sense that was kind of a role that Keanu Reeves was leaving behind, you know, because he was trying to become like a serious actor. And
he became an action star.
Yeah, and he became like such a big deal lately with, you know, The Matrix and John Wick. The idea of him returning to that role just seemed like ludicrous.
Yeah,
well,
I agree with you.
Yeah, the farther his star rose, I always thought the less likely a reunion would be, because Keanu Reeves is a superstar. I mean, he's one of the biggest movie stars in the world, and to have him come back to a relatively kind of goofy, low-budget sci-fi comedy seemed like a stretch.
Well, you know what's interesting is that in looking back now that it's been made, you know, hindsight 2020, you know, Keanu Reeves has become kind of an internet darling. He's shown himself to be a very gracious actor. He's a very
down to earth.
He's a very down to earth, very approachable guy. Every time he's in public, every time you hear him speaking to somebody, he's very open, and he's a friendly guy. And this just kind of
and he gives
solidifies
up on the subway.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
this solidifies, I think, Keanu Reeves as a truly decent person, because he's not beyond himself. His head isn't so big that he can't come down to earth and play this role. To your point, a low budget movie that he could have easily walked away from and never been a part of again. But this is something that makes me like Keanu even more because he did it.
Yeah. And he said something in the press for this at the virtual Comic-Con they had. Kevin Smith did like a 1-hour Q&A with the cast, and Keanu had like he spoke for a minute or two about just how doing a Bill and Ted film is kind of like coming back home.
I can't feel or laugh or do anything like the way that working on Bill and Ted does and working with Alex. I can't, that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world for me. So like to partner up and to work on the craft side of it, and then to get to play these characters that Chris and Ed have created, kind of be their children. But there's no other place that I can laugh like this, and to the craft, and then to play these characters. There's a few scenes that stand out, and a lot of scenes actually, but it's like every day there's nothing, because Al gives such a wonderful performance, and it's so funny.
Well, before we get into specifics of plot for Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Oh, yes.
Okay, now, a little out of practice here.
No. Hold on. Listen, he's had some time.
Well, look, I got to say, during the hiatus, I didn't really train him.
Did you feed him?
Yeah, I fed him, but, I put off the training, so we'll see how he does here.
All right.
Hey, spoiler monkey. Okay, hit it. Come on.
You had one job. One job in the hiatus.
Okay. Wow. All right. No. It's the red button. The red button.
Jared, don't even bother. Just hit it yourself.
Okay. Spoiler alert. We're going to be talking spoilers, so jump off now if you don't want to know what happens.
Let me just say, I had a blast watching this movie. I really went into this movie with no expectations. I watched it from home. I didn't go to the theater. I know, Jared, this is your first movie back in the theater.
Yeah.
I had no expectations. I didn't expect it to be great. I was just happy it was here. I finished that movie, and I was beyond happy. I mean, it's not a great piece of cinema by any means, but it's the kind of movie we needed, and it's the kind of movie that just warms your heart to see it. You know, it was a good movie. It's hard to explain. It's an emotional experience on many different levels, and I'll get into that later. But the fact that this movie exists is something special.
Oh yeah. And look, these kind of movies now, these like legacy sequels that happen decades after the last film was out, that's not a slam dunk. I mean, in the last few years, to varying degrees, everyone has been burned by Star Wars and Indiana Jones. I'm sure there's others. But you have that excitement, but nowadays I think it's also tinged with that caution. There's no guarantee that lightning is going to be caught in a bottle again.
Right, that's true. You know, if you saw the trailer, you kind of got the gist of the movie. Bill and Ted, 30-something years later, are middle-aged. They're still trying to save the world, to figure out what they need to do. They haven't done it yet. They had apparently a minorly successful run as a band, and then it just fell apart. And which is actually very funny, because if you watch the credits in Bogus Journey, you see the band falling apart in the news articles.
Yeah.
And they play up to that in this movie. But we meet Bill and Ted's daughters, who I think are incredibly cast in this movie. I think they did a really good job, basically playing young female versions of Bill and Ted, of course.
Correct.
But it played out well. But we see some scenes of them trying to make it through their day-to-day lives as wedding singers, which some great scenes to talk about. They get called to the future because they haven't saved the world yet, and they realize that the future has kind of like a concurrent time as the past, where, you know, hours still tick away in the future as they do in the past, and they have to get something done by the end of the day. Basically, they have to write the song to save the world by the end of the day.
Yep.
So they struggle they're like, hey, listen, let's just go into ourselves in the future and steal it from them.
Yeah, they do what Bill and Ted would do.
Yeah, Bill and Ted are going to steal it from Bill and Ted. And their daughters take an alternate route. They wind up getting a time machine, and they say, well, let's put together a band that can do this for them. And they wind up going and getting some of history's greatest musicians to put together a band. And some hijinks ensue, and lo and behold, they somehow get the song that saves the world.
Wow. So I think the opening scene of the film was a hilarious surprise.
It's so good.
Because I had no idea that Missy, she really keeps it in the family.
She's the running joke of the whole trilogy, really. You know, she's that glue of the trilogy. Missy.
And the fact that, you know, Deacon is
explain what happened. Explain what happened.
Okay, so first of all, Bill and Ted had a crush on her in high school and asked her to the prom. She's 4 years older than them. She ends up marrying Bill's dad. And fast forward to part 2, she is married to divorced Bill's dad and married to Ted's dad.
Which is always such a great interaction to watch.
Yeah, like you see in the second movie, Bill's dad's eating a Twinkie in the corner. He's all strung out looking. And so we find in the third film, she has married Ted's younger brother, Deacon. And there's a whole funny scene on the stage where Ted tries to explain what the relationship is to Missy now.
This happy event would seem to make Deacon his own father-in-law, and Ted his own uncle.
Not to mention making my dad his own son.
You just see him sitting there like miserable.
I know, and it's great that Ted's dad came back, that actor.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, much older, but still very much acting the same, down on Bill and Ted and, just giving them hell all the time.
He's so well cast.
But, they play this terrible song at the reception.
Oh, you know what? I kind of like that song. It was like a progressive song. I thought it was kind of cool.
Where it's like, with the bagpipes and but nobody knows what to make of.
I have to give them a lot of credit. Trailers these days give away so much. And the fact that they held back the Missy part was great. Because, I mean, they give you a glimpse of the wedding, but, the Missy thing was a real shock.
Yeah, you don't have any context. But when that scene happened, I was like, man, the writers of this movie, Chris Matheson and
Ed
Solomon.
That's another rare thing, is to have the writers carry over through all three sequels.
Yes. I mean, Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon, they created those characters before there was even a movie in the picture. They did it for a stand-up act.
And this didn't diverge from the other two movies. I mean, this was true DNA. This is as Bill and Ted as the other two.
It's hard to explain it, but when I saw the wedding scene, I was like, okay, these guys still got it, because this is funny. It's very Bill and Ted, and it's right in line with the other ones.
Yeah.
And there's a scene that happens right after the wedding, and it's or it's not after the wedding. I think it's after they go to marriage counseling. Couples
counseling.
And they're, the therapist is a little concerned about what's going on. And Bill and Ted, what I love about it is they didn't really change much. They're completely oblivious to why they're in a couples therapy with each other is inappropriate.
They're very much like a Beavis and Butthead, aren't they?
Well, yeah. Beavis and Butthead and all the comedy duos, Wayne and Garth, they all owe themselves to Bill and Ted.
Well, I think, too, Bill and Ted, it's like they function as a unit. They're like a single mind, and they can't figure out what the big deal about that is. Like the counselor's trying to get them to each tell their wife that they love her without them including the other
and
member
they can't.
of the group.
We love you, Joanna.
That's a great back and forth. They just can't get it. Okay, now you say that you love them.
What's funny is like Bill is I've always thought it was actually like the brains of the operation.
Yeah.
Between those two.
Yeah, he always seems to be the one who's instigating things.
I think what separates this movie from the other two so notably to me is that it has a lot of like genuine heart in the movie.
Yes.
Unlike the first two movies arguably are very tongue in cheek. They're very, off the hip funny, and there's not a lot of, serious emotion in it. But you see these two, as Mike said, they function as a unit, but you see these guys now in middle age, and they're still, like 17, 18 at heart, but they're middle-aged, tired men who have been chasing this for a long time. And you really get that. It really comes across on the screen that this is worn on them, that they're not just, Bill and Ted anymore, that they are fathers, that, life is weighing on them and that the pressures have gotten to them. And, there's a lot of relatable stuff, I think, that Bill and Ted puts out there that a lot of people watching this movie are going to be like, I get that. There's a lot of expectations you have as a kid that don't pan out when you're an adult. And, it's kind of hard to face that. That's a big part of growing up. And you really feel that even though they're very immature people, obviously they're supposed to be, that there's been some growth there and that they really are men. And it's interesting to see that transition because here we are, we're 40 years old, we're in our mid-40s. We've been with Bill and Ted from the start. They're not much older than we are in that sense. And you're always at that Bill and Ted stage. Like, I feel like this is something that I can't believe I'm relating to Bill and Ted in a sense here, but they bring that across very well. So it's not all just ridiculous slapstick humor, but there's a lot of heart in the movie, and I think that came across pretty well.
Yeah, there's a scene that it's probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie where they're in their garage, and Ted says, "I'm tired, dude."
What is it, Ted?
Liz is right. We have been banging our heads against a wall for 25 years. And I'm tired, dude.
Ted, we have a destiny to fulfill.
Yeah.
And think about our fans, dude.
Bob and Wendy will totally understand. Eileen, we haven't heard from for several years. Bill?
What?
I went into Cyrus Adler Music yesterday. He said he'd give me $6,400 for the Les Paul.
Are you saying?
Yeah. I think I am.
You know, you feel like the weight of the whole world on their shoulders, and they just haven't been able to crack that nut.
Yeah,
and
he's thinking about even selling his like Les Paul guitar.
Yeah, I
for
mean, he's
a couple
like
$1,000 and getting out of the business. And
yeah, and that is like you said, that's not a scene that could have played if this movie had been made 15 or 20 years ago.
Right.
Because it doesn't have the same gravity when you got a 55-year-old Keanu Reeves saying, "I'm tired, dude." Like you kind of feel his pain a little bit.
But but these guys get drawn back into the future with Rufus's daughter who comes to get them.
Yes.
And
she had some pretty funny.
When did we see her? Flight of the Conchords, right? She was a big one in Flight of the Conchords.
She's been in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. I love her. She's such a fun actress.
She does voiceover stuff too, like on Bob's Burgers and stuff like that.
But they get drawn in the future and they realize the Grand Leader is telling them, "Look, tonight the song has to happen. This is when it happens, or else it's not that you're just saving the world; you're saving time and space." Because they realize what happens now is, and we get a lot of details about what happens. Is that San Dimas?
San Dimas, yeah,
is the focal point of the entire universe.
Yeah.
Everything in the entire universe, that is the center of the universe.
Yes.
And if they don't get this right, time and space just go wacky and everything falls apart.
Yes.
So the pressure just adds on that they have to not just get this thing done, but they have to get it done by today.
Which the stakes went up kind of exponentially from the first two films and they even make reference to that in the movies. Like Ted's dad at one point, they say, "We've got to save the universe," and he's like, "Is that a new thing?" And then they're like, "Yeah, it's a new thing."
But what's so funny about this scene is that, you know, the Grand Leader is explaining this to them, and then they leave, and she's like,
"They totally hate us, dude."
They're not heroes anymore. You know, now they're under the microscope. But the Grand Leader is talking to Rufus's daughter, and she's saying that this could have been misinterpreted the whole time.
Well, the Grand Leader is also her mother.
Her mother, right.
Yeah.
And she's saying maybe Rufus was wrong in interpreting what was...
And speaking of Rufus...
Yeah, he does make an appearance,
I
doesn't
did
he?
like the little holographic tribute they put in there.
Yeah, we saw the phone booth with him coming out. It was very cool.
Yeah, where it's obviously footage from the first movie, but if you listen to the dialogue as it continues when they're walking away from the phone booth, he's like, "This is the original phone booth from 1989 that I went back and saw the great ones for the first time."
Yeah, that's great.
So
it's stopping the tour.
Yeah.
But the Grand Leader lays out, she has a hedge on this bet here. She's like, "Look, it could be that we have to kill Bill and Ted to make time and space even out." So they introduce very quietly and very intimidatingly their secret weapon, whom we don't know who he is. It's just a very intimidating robot that has a great menacing quality about him. You know, that first scene that we see this robot, he's very menacing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's supposed to be like a Terminator.
Yeah.
he's out for, to kill Bill and Ted. That's his mission. And he has his own time travel gear.
Yeah, it's kind of cool looking. The little crystal that comes down around
He
him.
makes like a little crystal cocoon around him, and he time travels. So they send this robot quietly to kill Bill and Ted. So if Bill and Ted save the universe, so be it, but they've hedged the bet. This robot's out for blood.
Which is not the first robot that's been sent back in time to kill them.
That is true, though it's a much better looking robot.
Yes,
than
it is.
what they had before. So, we get that hijinks with Bill and Ted trying to go and talk to Bill and Ted.
Their future selves.
Which I think it was, it was a very focused way of getting them to go through time, because they really could have been like scattershot all over the place and talking to different people, kind of like they did in the first movie.
Yeah.
But the fact that they kept visiting themselves every couple of years.
Yeah, hey, let's just go ahead a few more years.
It's just so great.
Like 2 years. Okay.
So the
I
first
like when
time
they first show up at the I guess it's like a hotel lounge or something like that.
Yes.
And they finish their song and they take off running because they know that they're coming to talk to them. They're trying to get
That's
away
right.
from them.
And they're so angry and like degenerate at that point because life has just gone awry and their wives have left them. But, I think the best Bill and Ted that we got to see in this whole thing was it the second iteration where they're in the house?
Dave Grohl's house?
They were acting like...
They're British.
Yeah.
Why do you both have English accents?
Funny story. Please.
Once Bill and I were knighted, things got so good with Liz and Joe that we decided as families to start summering in medieval England.
And I suppose it just bloody well rubbed off.
And I can't say how chuffed we are about it. Oh,
that is such a relief.
It's so ridiculous.
I guess they steal one of like Dave Grohl's songs and hand it off. Is that what they do?
Oh, I can't remember.
Exactly.
Is that what it was?
And they just give him a CD and then they run away when he comes home.
Oh man, they're pretending that they've made it big, they've saved the world, and the world's their oyster, and they're all like in the lap of luxury.
Keanu's all fat.
Oh, it's so funny.
He takes off his shirt and he's got the giant prosthetic Thor belly.
Alex Winter looks. His
hair is all coming off. It's in tufts.
So great.
But
so funny.
Yeah, those interactions, of course, and the prisoners. Where they're completely jacked versions of those people.
Oh, that's great. I mean, basically, every future Bill and Ted, except for the final version of them, are at odds with each other.
Yeah.
They just, it's just so fun.
And, of course, the prison scene is the first time where the robot, he gets mobbed and the crap kicked out of him.
If you haven't seen this movie, we're about to highlight, in our opinion, one of the trilogies and possibly one of cinema's greatest comedic performances. So the robot is trying to kill Bill and Ted, as we said, and he spots them in the prison. He's in the same time. And he goes to shoot them, but what he winds up doing is shooting Ted's father instead.
Yes, he shoots
And
Ted.
this is the first time. Now remember, the first time we saw the robot, he's very menacing. And all of a sudden we see the robot knows he shot the wrong person.
Well, this is before he really freaks out. But yeah, he has a reaction.
It's the first. He has a reaction where his eyes just kind of dart back and forth, like, "Did anybody see that?"
Yeah, he's like, yeah.
Yeah, who's it? Anthony Kerrigan.
Yes, that's his name.
This guy may be a Sam Rockwell heir apparent for me. I'll have to watch more of him to see what happens.
It's and then of course Ted's father, as everyone in this movie does when they die, descends to hell. And we get our first look at death in the film.
Death.
That's right. To his old, he went back to his old job.
Yeah, he sort of like reaches
William
over.
Sadler revisiting one of the best characters.
Bill and Ted's daughters, Billy and Thea, they have their own excellent adventure through time, where they're collecting various musicians, and they pick up Jimi Hendrix and Louis Armstrong, and
right.
I got a kick out of the scene where they give Louis Armstrong an iPhone, and he's watching. Yeah. He's like, "Whoa!" I always like that in movies where, like, people who are out of time are fascinated by future technology.
Mm-hmm.
They're trekking through time, collecting these musicians. And once they get back to San Dimas, our good friend, the robot, has appeared at Bill and Ted's house, and he just wastes all of them. He kills everybody.
Oh, what is... Oh, no.
And, you know, the best part is his robot voice from the start of the movie keeps diminishing.
Yeah, it goes
keeps
away
like getting
completely.
like it keeps going away. Like at first he's very like he's very deep bass tone robotic voice, and, and then every time he messes up, he just kind of loses it more and more.
Oh no!
But Bill and Ted then come back and they
visit themselves as old people.
No,
And-
I have to say the makeup on Keanu was I mean, I thought that they had actually cast an old man.
It was really
Yeah,
good.
I thought the makeup was great in that scene. And it was it was a sweet scene when they're talking to themselves very earnestly. I'm sorry. And Ted has that conversation with himself. I'm sorry I never got to know you. it's
so absurd.
It's really strange, but at the same time it was kind of heartwarming.
I just want to say thank you, Bill. For all the times you've been there for me. I feel like I never really knew you, Ted.
Oh, that's my fault. I never truly opened myself up to you. The truth is, I looked at you and saw myself. Yeah, I know. Me too.
I'm sorry for the times I let you down, Bill. You never have, Bill. You never have.
So they actually get a USB drive with the song on it, and the old Ted plays a little bit of it in their nursing home room, and so they can hear it. And but Bill and Ted still have no context. They don't know what's going on, or what MP46 is or anything like that. So they're met by the robot, who for some reason refuses to kill them.
Oh, that's right. He's right at the home. That's right.
Yeah, and
he's confessing is what he's doing.
he feels bad about it. They're just like, no, dude, just kill us. We have, that's the logic of this movie. We have to go to hell and get everyone back.
Well, the robot, he said, "I'm sorry, I killed your family." I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And so then he turns the gun on himself, and
Bill Ted have to rush him to get shot with him.
So Bill and Ted get killed along with the robot, and they end up in hell, of course, because that's where everybody goes in this film. And it's funny that the hell in this movie doesn't look anything like the hell from Bogus Journey. It's a totally different construct. But
I'm guessing hell is kind of a big place, so they probably were in a different section.
That's fair. They kind of took the back door into hell before, didn't they?
Yeah, something like that. And then, of course, the robot shows up behind them.
Which, why is a robot?
I know. He goes, can a robot even die?
Yeah, I like the way they even addressed that. It was like...
At this point, the robot has no robotic voice anymore.
And then the robot feels necessary to introduce himself at this point.
That is unexpected.
Yeah, how can a robot even die? Let's find the girls.
Oh, can I come with you?
He did kill us.
Come on, robot. Wait, I have a name. It's Dennis. Dennis McCoy.
Okay, let's go, Dennis McCoy.
Billy! Dennis Caleb McCoy. That's the full name.
Let's go, dude!
Oh, I feel gratitude. Gratitude. You know what
Okay,
I do
we
right-
get it. You're a grateful, totally insecure, somehow dead robot named Dennis Caleb McCoy.
Tia! Billy! How are we gonna find them, dude?
I don't know, dude.
Yeah, I don't even know, dude.
He's got that kind of
he copies what they're
awkward
doing.
Side eye glance to see if anyone notices him.
Yeah, no, it's just I don't know. It's just funny.
He's really funny. I mean, we can't overstate enough how funny this guy is in this movie. He really stole the movie. This guy.
Another funny thing is they get directions from a couple of demons.
Yeah.
They walk by a couple of demons.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that part.
They were very nice, very nice. Good group.
Group?
Yeah, they went that way.
Thanks, demons.
Oh, enjoy.
Thanks, demons.
Have a good time. Oh, no, that's strange. What is that, a robot? Yeah, that's a robot in hell.
We have a nice scene with Ted and his dad, because his dad finally, he believes everything now.
Right.
And they have a nice moment, and they have a hug, and then Bill says, "Thanks, Chief Logan," and then he goes,
"I wasn't talking to you, Bill."
Cool.
So it's just like he's still the same angry old man that always hated Bill, but
they're in hell, and of course they find death. So they go seek out death, and they come upon him, and he's cheating at hopscotch or something like that.
With himself at hopscotch.
He had tetherball going in the background.
I know he's like best 85 of 83. Or
that accent that he puts on is so great. But what's so funny is we find out that death, much like if you watch the end of Bogus Journey, you see the newspaper reels that they put up during the credits of death goes solo and fails miserably.
Yes.
And you find out that Wild Stallions broke up because Death tried to procure the name for himself.
Which is funny because, that's something you hear happening in bands all the time.
So Death and Wild Stallions had a parting of ways, and Death has been holding on to that bitterness for a while. But he's a great character, and then they finally find a way. I think the daughters, whom grew up with Death in the band a little bit, remember how good he was, are talking him up, and then talk up we need to have a reunion. Everyone has to get back together. And when Bill and Ted come back in the room, and Death does his he's getting choked up, because he's waiting for the apology.
Yes,
we're sorry for how things went between us, Death.
Yeah. Sincerely sorry.
I am sorry that fame went to my head. It's very intoxicating.
We really did love playing with you, dude.
We really did rock, didn't we?
We definitely did. And if it's not too late, Death,
would you consider rejoining Wild Stallions?
Oh, I suppose.
Yeah, Death certainly did not was not underserved in this movie.
No, they didn't overplay him in the movie, but he certainly got his his part right in the movie.
And so basically everybody, they get in the SWAT van, which somehow also made it to hell.
Yeah. Well, that's because the SWAT van's in hell. You're right.
And
I like too that Dennis comes up late.
Yeah.
He'd gotten lost.
It's Dennis. Hi. I got lost.
Get in, Dennis.
Okay. Hey, you guys. Hey, Kid Cudi. Oh, hello. Hello, everyone. Oh, hey, all right. Yeah, okay. Friends.
Let's rock!
Oh, real quick, and I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Dennis Caleb McCoy.
Yes.
Turned out that was Rufus's daughter's ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, she got named after. They named him after her ex.
So her mom named the robot after her ex. So that was a funny little piece of the movie also.
Stay on, Dennis. Caleb McCoy. And so, death returns everyone to the world of the living, which, he really gave up without a fight there. He didn't make them play any games or anything. It was pretty easy in this movie. It's like load everybody up into the truck and let's go.
Yep.
They get dropped off at on the San Dimas Freeway, right at the mile marker where the incident happens. There's a lot of completely nonsensical stuff that happens here. I mean, purely for the convenience of the plot, but I don't hold Bill and Ted to such stringent time travel standards.
Well, speaking of that, there was one thing that kind of stuck out a little bit that I thought was a little... they kept going forward in the future, but if they hadn't been successful in writing that song, the future shouldn't exist.
True. That's true.
The paradox of time travel.
Yeah, that's it. But fortunately, I think this movie really isn't concerned with such things. No.
Well, it's funny too because one of the people I'm just not familiar with who he was in the movie. What's his name?
Kid Cudi.
Yeah. What's funny is Kid Cudi.
Yeah, who is that? I don't even know who that is.
I don't know. I think he's
a popular performer in some youthful realms, but what's funny is that
youthful realms.
The kids
not only is he a performer, but he's also an expert astrophysicist and physicist of time and space.
Yes.
And if you notice, he does the station pose.
He says
which,
station.
if you remember from Bogus Journey, was the two, I guess their name was
aliens.
Station. The aliens that were also experts in astrophysics did the same thing.
Yes.
Station!
That's interesting. Yeah, because that's the only time you hear station in the movie is...
They bring it in.
And when they say station.
And that's what... And we'll talk about this after, but that's what really defines this movie as a solid third act, legitimate finisher to this trilogy. It really wasn't in space by itself. It tied the movies together very well. And it brought all these different aspects together. There's a lot of fan service to it. Mm-hmm. But it just wasn't a quickly, let's just make the movie and put it out there. It was pretty well thought out and it was pretty well structured. And they did a great job. But anyways,
yeah,
I digress.
Well, I think that the final, song came together. It was, it's not really clear sort of what happened. It came that Bill and Ted's Daughters were going to produce this. They by their own admission cannot write music, but they can put it together.
Yeah.
And so they bring together all the musicians. And then, watching it tonight, I noticed the final piece of the puzzle was Bill and Ted picking up their guitars and playing the music, which at that point is when everything got, realigned.
Right. Because the whole movie, what we're starting to see is people from different time periods are just popping in and out of current, the present, and things are starting to get whacked out in time and space.
Showed the boat on the Potomac, and Jesus
walked past them. Yeah. But yeah, that was very cleverly done. Kind of an interesting way to illustrate how everything was coming unraveled. Mm-hmm. And, of course, putting the pyramids in California and the Eiffel Tower and everything.
Right.
But the movie does end very abruptly. It basically says they were meant to make a song that united the world and saved the universe, and they did. And then the credits roll.
Yeah, and I don't know if I need more. I don't know if I need more, some kind of resolution.
No, I mean, look, at that point, you're either with the movie or you're not. And
exactly.
I don't think that the film demands a certain level of scrutiny for you to enjoy it.
No, not at all.
Like I said, you either like these characters or you abandoned them after the first movie, 30 years ago.
And you realize after watching this movie that it's really not just the Bill and Ted performance that you love so much. The crafting of these movies are really well written comedy, and they're very funny, and they're watchable movies. These aren't like throwaway movies. They're fun movies to watch. Mm-hmm. And they give you good memories. I mean, you look back before this movie even was announced, You love Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and you loved Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. I mean, they're not on the top list of any kind of AFI Cinemas list, but they're somewhere in your heart.
Yeah, but
you love them.
They were like, a reliable old buddy.
And that's really, I mean, speaking from somebody who's, middle-aged in their mid-40s here, this kind of movie to come out, as we kind of talked about earlier, there's been a few of these things, from Indiana Jones to Star Wars, but even so, when you see a Star Wars movie come out, when you're my age, there's something that you're really hopeful for and you really are excited for because it's a piece of your youth that you get to still tap into, and the fact that we got this movie, of all things, it became a trilogy and a very well-rounded, very closed-out trilogy. I have to say they closed it out pretty well, very well. I'm pretty lucky. I feel pretty lucky. This is something that I got to harken back to when I was a kid and enjoy and really remember watching those movies when they came out. And this is something that I'm lucky at my age that I got to see. And I get to take it with me. And it didn't turn out to be a flop. And it wasn't just, just put out there for quick fan service just to get a quick buck. It was actually a pretty well-crafted, funny movie that actually closed out the trilogy very well. And the funny thing is, it's a trilogy I didn't even know I needed. You kind of hoped that you'd see another one, but you didn't really, it wasn't important to you. But now that it's been made, I'm glad it was.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they could probably stop at 3. I think their story is probably told.
Yeah, I don't know where else you
go. But, I mean, I'd see a movie with Dennis and Death.
Man, if they spin off Dennis and Death together, the double Ds,
but
I'll go to the theater and watch that one.
Well, like I was saying, I think this movie works because it came out 29 years after Bogus Journey. It would not have worked any other way, and they made it work because of the story they told. You couldn't have told, like I said, a story of aging Bill and Ted in 1998.
Yeah, you're right.
Or even 2005. I mean, you had to have the years and the mileage on them to tell the story. So I'm glad it came out when it did. And and if it makes kids today discover Bill and Ted, then good on them.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if it holds up if you're a kid watching those movies now, but I mean, Bogus Journey, I still think Bogus Journey is the best of the bunch.
Yeah,
but they're fun movies. And they have a special place in my heart. And the fact that this movie was made brings that really to the forefront of how much I don't realize how much I enjoyed the movies until this movie came out. And then I realized, this is good fun. That really is a part of me that I've carried with me for a long time, and I'm glad I could close that part out.
Yeah,
but
good stuff. Final thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It was a feel-good movie. I still think Bogus was the best one. I think Bogus just is funny all the way through. I felt like there could have been a little bit more to the story. I don't know. I'm not probably being nitpicky here, but to me, the best parts were like the marriage counseling, the scene when they first arrive in hell, and the way they respond to the robot being there. I thought that was just funny. The way Bill's trying to put the pieces together of why he's even there, but then he gets frustrated, and they're trying to move on, and the robot just is still like holding them up. And I thought that was some great interaction. The wedding scene was. I was just laughing so hard at that opening scene with Missy marrying the brother. And I thought the end was really sweet. It was just a nice little feel-good movie. I mean, the thing is both those actors seem to just love playing those roles. They didn't seem to miss a beat. They seemed to just slide right into it and play them very well. And I don't think we need another one. I think that's a nice little. You got yourself a nice little trilogy of movies. It's there wasn't any politics or anything in it, which is kind of nice to see, and it was
refreshing.
Just a straight up fun movie that didn't really have a message. It was just fun. So
yeah. All right. Well, what would you grade it if you had to grade the movie? What
I
would you
want to
give it?
add one more thing I liked. I really like that they opened it with the original Orion.
Yes.
Logo.
Oh yeah, they did, didn't they?
And that was the original logo. You could see the little shake in the optical printing and everything.
I think that was definitely.
It's probably the first movie Orion's put out since Bogus Journey.
Is Orion even still? I mean, wasn't that just kind of got the feeling maybe it was like an obligatory thing?
Probably.
Well, I looked it up, and apparently they are still a functioning studio.
Well, good for Orion. I used to love that Orion thing when I was a kid.
The circles. Dun, dun,
Yeah. What do you grade it, Mike? Give it a grade.
I'd give it like a B.
Yeah, okay.
I think
Jared?
it's one of those I could watch again, and I'll probably get a little bit more out of it the second time I watch it.
Okay. Jared, what do you give it?
I'll go B plus.
B plus?
Yeah.
I think I'll give it a solid B plus. It's definitely a watchable, fun movie that you could watch maybe a couple times and really enjoy.
Well, I mean, considering how it could have gone disastrously wrong, I think, man.
I mean, the stars aligned for that movie. I mean, you said it.
It sure
was
did.
The right time. Even right now, or we're in the 25th century, but when it was released.
And actually, the 25th century, they're about 100 years in front of us. The time of the Bill and Ted's future.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It actually sort of looks similar to the 25th century, but maybe with a little more style.
Yeah, they had a little more style to it.
Yeah,
to be
so
fair.
we've still got 100 years to get our act together here in the 25th century.
But we certainly enjoyed the movie. We had different opinions on it. But we all liked the movie, and we thought it was we're lucky to have it. But hey, season 3, guys.
Season 3 rolls on.
It's rolling every Monday. Every Monday, we're dropping a new episode for you.
We're gonna drop it all right. We'll drop it like Dennis Caleb McCoy dropped Bill and Ted's Whole Family.
I have a name. It's Dennis. Hi, Dennis.
All right. Well, come back next week, guys. There's more. Yeah. There's more to come.
Yeah. Share our podcast. Leave a comment. Leave a review. We love reviews. And
buy a T-shirt.
Buy a T-shirt. When we get them in stock, we can't hold them, so buy them while we have them. And for God's sakes, buy a coffee mug. Somebody buy a coffee mug. They're sitting on the shelf. They're great coffee mugs. Mike's got a coffee mug, but he's the only one.
No, he doesn't.
No, he didn't buy one yet. But anyways, that's our show for today. We'll see you every Monday. Season 3 is rocking and rolling, guys.
Yeah.
You know you can't live without this content. So subscribe to The Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century. Follow us on social media, leave us a review, and join us next time as we take you into the 25th century.
I'm really sorry that I lasered you all. I just need to tell you my name is Dennis Caleb McCoy, and I just want to say that